Are people really defined by our memories of them? But we remember them differently. My children don't know my dad to be the same person that I do. They remember a forgetful pawpaw. I remember so much more. By the time he was 13 years old, he was working as a hand on a towboat in West Monroe, Louisiana. At first he cooked, he lashed barges, and did tow work, but he was gradually given more responsibility until he was eventually made a pilot. He supported his mother and 6 younger siblings for many years doing this kind of work. I remember, above all, Dad being a hard worker and happy to give his time for his family. There are so many fun memories that my sisters and I have of him as we were growing up. He was still on the towboats, only now they were huge boats on the Mississippi River, and he was the captain. Working on the boats meant that he had to be gone a whole month at a time. He taught us to work hard, too. When I was 14, we built a house together as a family on his months off. I remember being hung off the steep side of the house, a 3-story house, on a rope to nail shingles on the roof. It was okay as long as Daddy was at the other end of the rope. I trusted him. We worked hard, but we played hard too. The cool thing for us was that when he wasn't at work, he was off a whole month at a time. On his months off, we sure had fun. He has a great personality and sense of humor, and he was always very active. Once he chipped a bone in his elbow roller skating with Donna. When he got to the doctor asked him why he was roller skating at 40 years old. Dad said he heard that life begins at 40 and figured it was time to get things started. He had to have surgery on the elbow. 5 years later, he was racing Donna across the yard. She was 18 by then and had been running track. Daddy stepped in a hole and fell and broke his leg. More surgery. He was always a fast runner. It was the first time she ever beat him in a foot race. But then, he was ahead until he fell. We also had some amazing adventures on those months off. Some were camping trips to the Smoky Mountains, where he started the family tradition of hot cocoa to the doors of our tents first thing in the morning. We would camp for a month at a time in the summer. Other trips were to Washington, D.C., and doing things like whitewater rafting, which I'll never forget. When we were at home, there were Scrabble and canasta tournaments with the aunts, uncles, and cousins. As the years have passed, Dad has had more surgeries, including a quadruple bypass and an arterial-femoral bypass. Kathy and Donna and I are always in the waiting room together during his surgeries. It's not usually very long before we're reminiscing together about the past. It's amazing that the tiniest fragment of a memory from one of us brings instant recognition from all the others. We decided that a memory jar would be beneficial to help us preserve these little fragments. We store slips of paper in little jars. We can pull out a strip with a few words on it and be transported back in time. In 2006, Dad had a major surgery the same week that Mom and Dad moved out of the house we built. It had been 25 years by then, and they were both having problems with the stairs. I had flown back to Louisiana to help. His surgery was rough, and his recovery even worse. He experienced his first episodes of extreme dementia while in the hospital. I was exhausted and emotionally drained when I finally made it to the old house to finish removing the last things. One of the things in a pile was a box of stuff from many years ago that I'd stuck in their attic. At the bottom of that box was a letter that Daddy had written to Ryan in 1987 while he was in boot camp. I was amazed. I found my dad in that letter. He had had Alzheimer's for many years at this point, but in that letter, he was entirely mentally awake and functioning. Until I read this letter and heard the clarity of it, I didn't realize that my children don't know my dad. They were so young when he became affected. He still has a positive personality, thank goodness, but they don't know how kind and giving he always has been. They don't know about his honesty, his integrity, or many of the other qualities that make him who he is. I don't believe that our memories of someone define who they are. They are so much more than what we can retain in our minds. As time passes and his body gets old and tired, I am comforted by my belief that he lives not only in our memories, but that his spirit, his soul, will one day be freed from that body and that he will go on. Meanwhile, we'll keep adding little fragments to our jars to help our children know who our dad is and, I guess in later years, to make sure that our grandchildren know us. Memory gets tricky and it's fickle. But for now,